Hi, this is Dave, and welcome to the weekly market recap, closing out the week for Friday, November the 8th, 2013. So let's just jump into this. We're taking a look at the Dow futures on the daily chart, and essentially what we've had here is we were looking at some pullbacks, at least to the 21 period exponential moving average, and we had a pullback on, this would have been, let's see, on Friday, Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday. So we had one on Tuesday, we had one on Friday. Now, admittedly, these were not deep pullbacks at the time. The moving averages have sort of caught up to the moving averages have sort of caught up to the lows of these pullbacks. So at the time, they were fairly shallow pullbacks, and we were essentially looking for a bit of a deeper pullback. Simply for the reason that you can see here our slow stochastics are oversold, and we were hoping maybe not for necessarily this situation, but maybe down to the 50% on the stochastic before we had any pushback up to the high side. So this has been a really tough sort of area to trade in terms of Thursday we had this break to new highs, and then we sold off all day long, and I had a tough time that day trying to catch intraday longs, just because it was mostly selling pressure. I assumed that we would find some support at the breakout here, right where it broke out. When we came back down, we'd find some support and then push back off. We didn't do that. Instead, what happened was we sold off all day long on Friday. In fact, this was, there was questions whether or not, this was a bearish engulfing candlestick pattern, if this was a reversal, potential reversal candlestick pattern. I wasn't really quite sure, but all we did on Friday was come back down to support again, and then we had a really strong day on Friday, and we closed above, these all-time highs for the week. So we're at new all-time highs in the Dow futures this week. I assume we probably are in the other indices, although I haven't yet looked at them. And essentially, we didn't really reset the fast or the slow stochastics rather with any kind of a decent pull down. But we did have, essentially these were the pullbacks by the looks of it. So we'll have to see into next week whether or not we're going to hold this breakout level around 15,670. Right around that level, 15,670. See if we're going to hold above there and get a couple of clean bars above there. And then after that, I think the only thing to really look at is, if we stay above there, is look maybe to retest that and then to push off or wait for the moving averages to catch up. But essentially, I mean, this is what we're looking at. We're looking to see if we're going to stay above there. I was hoping for a deeper pullback before we push back through. But essentially, the market did what we were expecting in the sense of looking for a pullback before a resumption through that level. So it wasn't exactly what we were expecting in terms of the type of pullback, but from a macro basis, it is what we were expecting. So I mean, if we look at the other evidence, you've got a bit of a pickup here on this was actually on the selling day, but even on this this day where we're pushing above on Friday, the volumes picked up a little bit. We are holding a rising 20 period moving average. MACD is net positive. Our trending indicator is positive. There's really no reason to fight this. So let's take a look at some of the let's look at the transports from a Dow theory perspective before we move over to the other indices. So this is a little bit divergent, where you have the transports have actually sold off to the 20 period exponential moving average. It's actually a 21 period exponential moving average, and they found support and they're pushing off. But if you look at this, I mean, it essentially broke through, it pulled back, and it's still below these all-time highs, whereas the Dow is let's just go back to the Dow. Whereas the Dow is above those all-time highs. So there's a little bit of price divergence there. Let's keep a close eye on it next week and see if those two, it's a minor price divergence if they come back into sync. So let's look at the S&P futures. S&P futures are also above, they're above this breakout level, and they're close to their all-time highs. Not quite at their all-time highs, but they're for the week they're basically at their all-time highs. And you can see here the MACD is starting to roll over from the high side, just like the stochastic. So not sure how deep this pullback is going to be, but this 21 exponential moving average, you can see we were looking for it back here. It happened, it held, and it's pushed off. So that's really all you can really expect. The evidence is to the high side. The NASDAQ, same thing. Momentum is coming down. That's why I'm a little bit cautious. But if you look at it, the major support in the NASDAQ is probably closer to that trend line. We don't really need that anymore. Probably closer to that trend line on a long-term basis. But we did hold the 21 exponential moving average, and we are pushing back off to the high side. So it looks higher at this point in time until proven otherwise. So let's take a look at the dollar index. So the dollar index, this is really what's been really interesting. Let me get rid of some of these. Fibs, except for, let me see. I believe these are still in play. You know what? Let me just delete everything and I'll redraw this stuff because it's a little bit confusing. Okay, so essentially what we have here is we had this level here. I'm not sure why. I seem to have lost one of my support levels here. So this major level here, let me actually copy one of these. It might have actually just gotten moved. But essentially, you can see this was the major level here, right around these lows where this wide range bar broke through. You can see we circled it last week because we were talking about this key level where it was support, it broke down, it retested and failed, and then it came back up into that level. And then you can see here, there's been a lot of activity around this level. This is obviously a pretty key level around 80, let's call it 80, 86, 80, 90 in the US dollar index. And you can see here, essentially, this downtrend line has been broken. Last week we closed right close to this level, and we said, we need to see how it's going to act around there. You can see we spiked through it, and then essentially we had a 1 bar strong close above that level on Friday. So you can see the 8-period moving average is broken across the 21-period moving average. There's been a crossover here. We broke this trend line. This to me is hinting, that we've had a bullish reversal in the US dollar index. Having said that, the trending indicator is still net negative, and we're overbought on the stochastics. But you can see the MACD seems to just be crossing the zero line here, which would, basically corroborate, this technical, I'll call it a set of occurrences where you've got the break of the trend line, the break of the support level, a close above it, and then you've got a bullish crossover in the moving averages. So this looks more bullish than bearish. It looks like an early stage, potential early stage reversal. And, as long as we stay above this low around 79.28, it looks like the dollar index may be set to test some higher levels. How high could we go? Well, usually when I get into a situation like this, I want to see where the fibs come into play, the retracements. So we've had this was the last major down move, and you can see the 50% retracement comes in around 82.11, 61.8 comes in around 82, 83, and you can see there was a lot of activity in the past around that level. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a retest of this zone, and everything that implies. That will imply, some lower commodities and lower euro. Let's take a look at the euro actually. So the euro broke. I believe we were talking last week, if memory serves me, that I'm still net bullish on the euro as long as we hold this trend line. Well, we broke that trend line as the dollar index was breaking resistance, we were breaking support here. Now, having said that, the reason why I'm a little bit cautious on all of this, if you look at the euro, the momentum is sort of bottom. We have the makings of a potential momentum shift. So if you look at the last time this happened, we sold off for a while here, and then it resolved itself with a push higher. Same situation here. And we're in and around a situation like that where you've got, a support zone here and a support level around 132.82, and you have the makings of a momentum shift. So that could resolve itself with this kind of situation where you just come back up and then you come back through it. So if we were to do something like this and come back down through $1.3282, then that would really give me the conviction to say that the euro's ready to let go of some major support levels and push down into some lower levels. So let's take a look at this from a number of different perspectives because we seem to be at some kind of an inflection point here. It looks like the dollar index wants to test some higher levels. The euro this was a 50% retracement. Let me just delete some of this stuff off here just so that it's clean. So let me redraw these fibs. If you look, this was the last major low. This is the last major high. That's how I like to draw my fibs. We came into the 50% retracement, so we had the moving averages cross over to the downside. But having said that, momentum seems to be bottoming, and we have the potential makings of a momentum shift. So normally when I get into this situation, I'm looking to see, okay, you've got a minor. I'm not even sure if that would be the trend line. Let me just kind of widen this out a bit. You've got a minor sort of downtrend line going here, and then you've got, that's pretty exaggerated in terms of the angle, but you've got this 50% retracement. You could come down to the 618. You could come down to the 78.6. The interesting thing about those levels is you also have horizontal levels that I drew on my chart right around those areas. So those seem to be fairly key levels coming into play. So I wouldn't be surprised to see, let's say, a quick move down to the 618. But having said that, I'd like to see this kind of scenario play out where we do this somewhere, somewhere into this level, somewhere in this zone, and then we come back down through here, right? We come back down through this level for a quick move into, let's say, 131, 132, 131.70, 131.90, 132, somewhere in there, and possibly even into 129.88, which would bring us into $1.30, which is a very key level that we've been talking about for a long time, $1.30. So $1.30, I think, is sort of where the major rubber meets the road, and then you've got these zones in between here. So it's not really that clear, is it? Let's jump back over to the dollar index. And if you look at the dollar index, to me, like, momentum is it's overbought. But having said that, we could come into some of these higher levels, and then, the euro looks the same way to me. Now, on a trading basis, it doesn't really look that interesting yet. I don't really, I'm just, from an analysis standpoint, I'm looking at it, but from a trading perspective, I'm not really all that interested in it. Let's take a look at the USD CAD. So the USD CAD is still setting up this bullish kind of triangle, and I say bullish because it seems to be spending most of its time in the top 1/3 of this triangle. So if you look at, here's the bottom 1/3, middle 1/3, top 1/3. It seems to be spending a lot of time in the top 1/3. It seems to have put in sort of a lower high here, and if we get a break to the upside, that's what I'd be interested in. The MACD confirms that. Stochastics are a little bit overbought, but my trending indicator confirms that. So I think I would be looking more for a bullish breakout in the USD CAD, and we could see that if we get a little bit of a retracement higher in the US dollar index as well. So this looks interesting. It is a pattern that has not completed. It's sort of emerging. It's in play. It hasn't completed. If we do break above, let's say, $1.05 strongly, then I would be, I'd be looking for a move into, and I love this pattern. I love triangles. I'd be looking for a move into our old target of around 108 to 110. So you've got intermediate levels 106.6, 107.5, almost 109. So this looks really interesting. Having said that, it's still, coiling, building up energy. Let's take a look at the metals. Admittedly, gold has been really, I don't really have a heck of a lot on it. I mean, we did hold this 618. We pushed back up, but we put in a high. We seem to have put in a lower high. We're in the process of potentially putting in a lower low, but and potentially a momentum shift if momentum bottoms here off of this support level. I'm not sure what quite happened there. Just had a bit of a flicker. So not quite sure. I don't really like this all that much. But I do notice that we're coming into, potential support level with a potential momentum shift. So the interesting thing will be, can we hold this support level, or are we going to flush back down to these lows? That's kind of what my first impressions are looking at this chart. This is, fairly decent support, but we've already come into that level and we're coming back into that level again. Now, having said that, though, when momentum is sort of bottoming into that support level, got to look at that as, maybe it might not just let go. It might just hold and bounce again, but it doesn't look all that interesting. So let's look at silver. Silver looks the same to me. There's just not a lot of energy in these markets, from what I can tell. And let's take a look at copper. Copper sort of setting up a wedge pattern, and it's starting to look like, I'm not really quite sure what it's starting to look like. But if we get a break of these lows, basically whichever way this breaks is probably which way it's going to confirm. You do get things like busted patterns where it'll break one way and then it'll quickly reverse the other way. It'll fake people out. But, at this point in time, just waiting for confirmation outside of this, some guidance outside of that pattern. Let's take a look at some of the energies. Let's look at natural gas. So admittedly, I like natural gas here. Even though we did break out to the downside of this sort of sloppy wedge pattern, we came into a support level with a momentum shift. I do like this. I think that we put in a short-term bottom. I was talking about, excuse me one second. Sorry about that. Throat was just a little bit dry. I just had to have a bit of a drink there. I was talking last week about this level, liking this level for a potential move off of 333. It didn't quite get there, and then we put in a bullish hammer off of that bottom with a momentum shift. So when that happened, I was looking at this sort of in real time and saying, once we break above the high of this bullish candle, this bullish hammer, I think that might represent the intermediate low, and we might not actually get down to 333. So the markets don't move in, technical analysis is not a perfect science. It's sort of, science and art. It's sort of just a study of behavioral patterns based on, what people have done in the past. So when I look at this, I'm looking at this as a support level, but we didn't quite get down to it, and you have to look at the evidence in front of you, put in a bullish hammer, and then you broke above the high of that. Having said that, now you're coming into resistance. So the question is going to be, can we break this trend line? Can we get above the 21 exponential moving average? If we can, that would really put me on the bullish side, and I'd be looking for a move into some of these highs, and then potentially, looking to see where momentum might stall, and where it might come into a level to sort of determine how high it could potentially go. So I hope that makes sense. I'm more bullish than I am bearish on the natural gas. I'm looking for a move into, some of these higher levels in this zone up here. So having said that, let's take a look at crude oil. So crude oil has just been holding on for dear life around this 94 level. I'm really not quite sure how low it might go, but I think we're getting close to really getting close to a support level here. We could get a flush into the 78.6 retracement around 91.50, let's call it 91.44. That being said, you've got you're into a sort of a support level here. You're testing this downtrend line, and you've got this, you've sort of got a trend going on your momentum here. And I think if you can break above this trend line on the slow stochastic, I think, you've lost momentum to the downside in the trending indicator. I think if you can get above this level here in your momentum, you've got a shot of, having momentum pick up, having a momentum shift and pushing above this trend line and maybe getting a fairly quick move back to the high side. It doesn't have to be quick, but, potential bottom in here. The reason why I say that is because you do have a bit of a technical divergence off of, you've got a low and then you've got a lower low, and then you've got, well, that's not actually true. You've got a lower low in your momentum as well. I thought we had a slightly higher low there, but it wasn't, it's not really that pronounced. So I do think we're getting close to, it's not a clean divergence. It might actually not even be a divergence, my bad. But this price action to me, I'm either looking for a quick flush into this level, at which time I would see if we hold that level, we break that trend line, that would be the low, or if we just, sort of break this trend line here in momentum and we start pushing above that trend line, then I would look at this as a low. So we've got two levels in play, and it's kind of like let the price action tell you what the market is going to do. And until and if it does that, I just kind of like to step aside and wait for that kind of confirmation because you don't want to get in too early, and you should have enough time to make some sort of a decision. So having said that, I'm not all that interested in trading this either. I don't really see any major trade setting up there, just recognizing from an analysis perspective, we're getting close to that support level. So let's take a look at the 30-year. So the 30-year was holding this trend line, and then it looked like we just kind of smoked through that. And, as long as we hold this lower high over here, we look like momentum's bottoming. I'm not really quite sure what's going on here. We didn't quite get up to the 50% yet. Having said this pattern is still more bullish than bearish. And, you as long as you hold these lows, then you have the potential to go higher. If you hold this low or these lows, you have the potential. And when I mean swing point low, by the way. These are the low lows, but this is the swing point low. As long as you hold this or hold this low, looks like we have the potential to move higher. So I'm not that negative on the bonds just yet. Let's take a look at the 10-year, the inverse, the interest rates. So if you look at, we were talking about, until and if we get a break of this trend line, this to me looks like a bullish, potential bullish reversal. So what I'm thinking now that I look at this chart being the opposite of, this is the 10-year interest rate yield, and the last chart was the bond future, and this is the interest rate future on the 10-year. So this to me looks like we could get potentially a retest of these highs around 29.78 now that we put in this sort of bullish reversal off of, now we've got a moving average crossover. We broke that trend line. Having said that, momentum looks like a little bit overdone. But if you look at this, what this would sort of denote, this chart to me looks cleaner just by eye than this chart. So if we go back to this chart, to me what this looks like now is we might get a potential retest of these lows. So that's, that's kind of what it's starting to look like. I'm sorry, you know what? I was looking at the 30-year. Let's look at this is the 10-year. This is the 10-year, and then okay, so that's the 10-year, and this is the inverse. This is the interest rate future, okay? So it's sort of the same kind of story, though. Let's take a look at the 10-year again. Yeah, this is sort of the same story. We've got a little bit of room to move back down. That being said, it's not all that clear to me, but, it looks like some levels could be coming into play there. I hope that makes sense. I really, this wouldn't be interesting enough for me to actually want to really do anything. Let's go back to the 30-year. So the 30-year still looks more bullish than bearish, although it has broken this trend line, which could open up the door for a retest of these lows, potentially if we get through, this higher low here. So, as long as we hold these lows, it still looks more, like this this reversal is still kind of in play off of that double bottom, and off of, you know, you do have a you did have a major, you know, trend line break right in and around there. So let's see, are there any markets that we still want to, are there any markets that we should still look at? I think we've covered most of the major markets. I just want to take a quick look at a couple of stocks that look interesting. So let me jump over. I just need to jump around on a couple of screens here. So I've been building a watch list of stocks that look interesting. And what I've been doing is I've been scanning stocks that are, let me just reload this. There we go. I've been just scanning, you know, running different kinds of scans and looking at stocks that look like, you know, they're trending well. So if we look at, you know, here's some of the results of the scans, just trying to figure out how to sort of tighten these scans up a little bit. But, you know, some of these stocks look interesting. A couple of the ones that look really interesting to me that I've added to my watch list are, you know, let's look at, this stock to me came on, you know, onto my radar, ADS, Alliance Data Systems. This came on my radar just in the last day or two. And even though it's, you know, it's hugely overbought, it just has a beautiful trend. It has a beautiful, you know, trending nature to it. You know, it's just going higher, going higher, going higher. It looks really good. I don't know what this company does. I'm just looking at it from the chart pattern. It looks really interesting. This one here, BLK, BlackRock, looks sort of interesting. It broke out of this base, and then it's holding the breakout here, which coincides with the 21 moving average in this level of 296. It looks interesting. Momentum's still coming down, but this just came onto my radar as well. I'm just starting to sort of familiarize myself and watch these stocks to see if, you know, they're going to start looking interesting and I might want to get involved in them somehow. This is a nice little cup pattern setting up in AutoZone, AZO. You've got a high here. You've got this nice rounded cup. You've come up to retest the high here. I'm looking to see if we're going to get a pullback and a push through this 451 level. And this chart looks really interesting to me too. I like it. This is Dow Chemical, DOW. I like it for the fact that, you know, we're holding, we're trending higher as denoted by this cyan line and, you know, these moving averages, but we're holding, you know, basically this is sort of a line in the sand trailing stop. And we're holding, we came down to it, we're holding it, we're pushing back off. I like, this is the 60-minute chart. If you look at the 60-minute chart, it is put in, it's broken through this trend line. It's put in a higher high, higher low, and then it broke the swing point high. This is a what I call, not just myself, what some people call a 1, 2, 3 trend change, and it held this support level. I like this. I like this stock for a potential, excuse me, I just had to pause the recording there. I didn't want to sneeze into the mic. I like, what I was saying was I like this stock, Dow Chemical, for a potential retest of these highs somewhere around 41.64-ish. So I do like that. These are not recommendations, by the way. These are just, you know, interesting chart patterns that I like and that I think may be potentially going higher, that I may be wanting to get involved with somehow. So DLTR, I like this chart pattern. It's not really at a buy point, but if you look at the daily chart, it's just higher, higher, higher. You know, nice kind of grind higher. The 60-minute chart seems to have put in a potential double bottom there. Needs to get above that trend line, but it looks interesting. This was actually a stock that on this day where the line was, I guess that would have been Wednesday, I got really interested in, and I actually traded it. I bought some shares in it, and what happened was my stop was below this swing point low. My stop was below that swing point low, and they widened out. I guess it's a dealer market in the NASDAQ. I wasn't aware of this, but they widened out the bid-ask spread, and they pushed the bid down to where my stop level was, which was below this swing point here at, I think it was 23.35, and it caused my stop on the stock to trigger and sell at the market. It was a small loss, but it was really the principle. It really really bothered me. It really kind of ticked me off because it didn't actually trade down to my price. It was just a situation where the market maker or what have you widened the bid-ask spread, so the bid somehow triggered my stop and it got thrown out at market. So I took a small loss on that. Like it was very small, but it was just the principle of the matter. It really bothered me because it just didn't trade down. It didn't actually trade down to or through my price. It didn't even come close. So this was a nice setup that I was looking at. I liked it. The next day after that happened, it was up, you can see it was up almost 4%. So it was at a really good buy area here. It was into the support level. And, we had momentum shifting back up to the high side. So I liked it a lot. These were the notes that were on my chart. I was only looking at 100 shares. I was just kind of I've never traded this stock before. I just wanted to give it a shot, start trying some of these swing trading ideas a little bit more, get more involved. So basically what happened was, we had this, here's your 60-minute chart into a support zone. It was at support on the daily chart. We came up, we put in a 1, 2, 3 trend change off of the 60-minute chart, around 24.33, and now we're trading 24.92. So that's, sort of where I got interested in it. Took a little bit of heat, not a heck of a lot, and then, the pattern has sort of resolved itself and followed through. So that's kind of what I was looking for. I guess that stuff happens. Here's another interesting chart, PGR. I'm not necessarily interested in trading all of these. I'm just sort of getting my feet wet, looking for ways that I can find interesting stocks that might be setting up, during the day. So this was looking interesting. It doesn't look all that interesting anymore, but it is holding the support level, looking to see if it'll get higher. So I'm just going to flip through some of these chart patterns. And if you notice, they're all in really nice uptrends. If I just zoom out here, they're just, they have their pullbacks, but they're, they just continue to stair step higher. Let's see, WCN, Waste Connections. This one actually looks like it's technically broke down. So this one will go off of my watch list. It broke that trend line. It broke the 5 ATR 20, trailing stop there. And, this was one that I was looking at back where this line was, looking to see if it could get through that trend line, because we did have a decent pullback down into a fib support level, and it was looking like it was ready to maybe move higher. And you can see I didn't trade this, but, I was looking for a break around 180, 181, somewhere around there. And then it's, it's trading 207. So this was something that I did not trade, but I'm just sort of looking at to see how some of these patterns are playing out. That doesn't look all that interesting, but you get the idea. So, for people that are interested in swing trading, point I'm trying to make is, do you have a methodology for, scanning for potential opportunities in the market? I'm working on, some of those opportunities right now. I've always had ways of scanning the market, but it's hard to find these opportunities unless you have a more sort of consistent scanning approach. That's something that I've been personally working on recently, and it's been a process, and it's been interesting. So I'm going to wrap up this video just to let you know this coming Wednesday. That will be Wednesday, the November the 13th. We have a CST Oakville meeting, continuing on the trading plan series. We have an interesting speaker coming out. If you can make it, come out, check out the announcement that was sent out with this video, and just make sure that you register for the meeting to guarantee a chair. And we don't really want people coming that aren't registering. We don't really the CSTA doesn't really want to have drop-ins. They want to know who's coming to the meetings and have everybody properly accounted for. So I hope that helps, and we'll look forward to seeing you at this coming Wednesday CSTA Oakville chapter meeting, and if not, look forward to seeing you at the next a next meeting, or at the next video update. So good trading, good investing, be safe, and look forward to seeing you soon. Bye for now.